So this is the Whitman Finance Committee meeting for January 21st, 2025, 7 p.m. We have Kathleen Otina, Mike Warner, Chuck Colby, Al, I can never remember people's last name. Al Cafferty, Mike Andrews, Justin, Jason. I keep doing that. I was so good. I was on a roll for like weeks.
You looked up from the paper.
That was it. Mike Flanagan and Ralph Mitchell here this evening. All right. So let's see. Minutes. Our recording secretary is not here this evening. She will be here next week. Hopefully we'll be able to, I'll send a note to her to see if she can get us caught up on minutes. But again, these are not any meetings that we've had any decisions to make. These are really recordings of our meetings for the various departments. So that'll go to next week. Reserve fund is still available for fiscal 25 of $35,000. We have nothing there that has been requested. And we'll have some new business this evening. We have the Board of Health and the library will be in to discuss with us their budgets for fiscal 25. Sorry, fiscal 26. How about we get some subcommittee reports out of the way?
Okay. I have one for you.
Fire away.
Okay. I attended the January 15th Regional Agreement Amendment Committee meeting last week at 5 o'clock. We managed to get rid of or approve 5 sets of minutes, which was good. Discussed capital costs and leases, and then went into transportation, which is the one issue that I am most dedicated into getting resolved because it's a money issue. And that is put into the agenda for the February 26th meeting for us to read, and then hopefully for the committee to take action at the subsequent meeting. And then the committee spent some time sort of backdating when will the committee have something for the town meetings to approve, and it's not going to be in 2025. Just going through the process of getting a regional agreement approved by Bessie and the towns, and I forget who else, the school committee. It's a year-long process. So the best guesstimate is that for the regional agreement to be amended and approved by the towns and DESI, we're looking at May town meetings in 2026. And our next meeting is February 26th at 5 o'clock, which I plan to attend.
Excellent. Thank you. Anything on Capital Committee?
I reported on Capital Committee last week. We haven't met since then. And the same with the the Middle School Building Committee. I reported last week on the progress we're making there, and we have not met again. So I think all of my subcommittee reports are up to date.
Okay, there are no changes. We did receive an email, which I believe went to everybody on the committee, from Rick Anderson on the Public Works Department. I'm just going to kind of look through it. Subcontractor, they've decided really all of them, some of them are done now. So concrete is done, steel erection is done.
That was the email at the bottom where I was talking about.
Yep. So drywall frame is at 95%, exterior wall panels 90%. They're working on the electric, plumbing, masonry, windows. So far, ceiling's not on site yet. Then there's some requisitions and change orders that are coming into play. They have only utilized 2.8% of the contingency budget. So right now they have a balance of $806,371. Now there's some still demolition and things that have to still be done. So and some mitigation of unsuitable soil. So that may affect that as well. But Rick Report says that they would love to be able to turn the bulk of that back over to the town afterwards. So that's where it is.
Nice.
Thank you for that, Kathleen. It's Mike Andrews. I think I had asked last meeting at the end of the meeting for an update on that.
Yeah, Rick is no longer on the committee. He was the chair for several years. Was he 10 years, I think, on the finance committee, and he agreed to stay on in the role for that particular piece. Being a contractor, he's a good person there.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's whenever that meeting is, he is within like 2 days. We get a report. It just depends on when our meetings are. So.
Right?
It's well known on the job sites. Like I work on these job sites, and like punch list added items. We always joke, like between the general contractor and us, the carpenters, how the budget needs to be spent all the way, even because the town won't get what they've asked for for the next project. So even if there's an overage, they'll add benches here. They'll buy extras so that, you know what I mean? And that's something in my town. I want to make sure it's not happening. You know, that there's add-ons because they're just trying to spend the extra money so that the next time when we ask for money, we get that much. And so the town saying, well, you didn't spend it all last time. They actually spend it just so that, like we did it at Stoughton High School, and it was a lot of money. And it was guys on site doing punch list items for things that this was turned over to the school and they should have now owned. And it was kind of known that that's what was happening. But Rick is the guy to be. I'm glad he's in my town. Yep. You know, that is.
I'm
glad he's in that position.
I know he's had a couple of those come up where they're not doing so. They're just saying, hey, you do have this extra money, and maybe you could do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. And the committee is looking at it, deciding is that something that they could do. I don't know what any of the things are. Right. Could it be something we do ourselves afterwards? Is it necessary? So I'm with you. It's great that they're really watching.
Someone that's in the field and has been on
you see
projects. It's known. Like I'll be doing stuff there, and I'm like, why am I here? Because they need to spend the money so that we ask for it again.
Yeah, sometimes people would say, like, when you get a budget, if you don't spend the whole thing, you think, you didn't need it, so you're not going to get it.
And you understand those general contractors, the same ones going from Stoughton building, they build schools, so they know how to, manipulate and make sure that the next town they go to, they can get the money up, because in the end, it's going to one of those contractors. Yeah. So if the contractor doesn't spend money in this town, it goes to the next one.
Nothing wrong with being a little under budget and turning some money back to pay some other bills or take care of some other projects.
And that's a good amount of money.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? What did you say, 800,000?
Yeah, plus
deficit.
Yeah, didn't
it's like there's 800,000 of it.
Didn't we have Kathleen? Maybe you remember. Was it last year we had some projects that weren't closed out and there was still money encumbered, and we were able to gather some of that up? Didn't some of that actually go to the Public Works building project?
I'm not sure about the linkage to the Public Works building, Chuck, but we definitely, I know that the schools closed out as many of the capital projects that they had funded.
Yeah.
Things like resurfacing the track and redoing the driveway up to the high school, things like that. And they turned the money back to the town. So that, and the same thing happened in the town itself. Mary Beth came in determined to clean out all of those accounts that the projects were closed, but the money was still lingering in some account page somewhere. So she's done a good job. I think she's on top of it. Her experience as the town treasurer has really been invaluable for us as she assumed the role of town administrator. She's on top of those kind of things.
Yeah, that's definitely a good coordination there.
Yep.
Yeah, good.
Okay. Let's see, other stuff. So just a quick note, I don't know if we want to talk about, we have a few minutes before our first department shows up, but we did meet with the select board this evening at 6 p.m. to talk about the budget for fiscal 26. Sean Kane gave a very good explanation of where we are, income, expenses, and again, we don't know yet because we're in negotiation, as is the school, with all of the unions. There's a lot of unknowns still, but right now the figure is that we are approximately $1.7 million in deficit for the next year.
How's it going? Are you guys ready?
Yep. Sure, come on in.
Absolutely. I see we have Dan Kelly. Yep.
How's it going? Yep, Dan Kelly.
Board of Health is here.
See everyone.
Oh, great.
Hello.
Daniel and Tom are also here.
Make yourself comfortable.
I don't have anything crazy for you guys tonight, so I
Start-
appreciate. Is Votech going after us?
No, that's next week.
Library's after you guys.
We avoided them this time. Normally, we seem to always be right after, right after.
Just for our record, we have, well, let's do some introductions just so we get that covered.
There you go. No problem.
So I'm Mike Warner, I'm the vice chair. We have Kathleen Otina on the line. She's our chair.
Hi, Dan. Good to have you tonight.
Hi, how are you?
Yep.
Good,
And
thank you. Good.
Chuck Colby, Dan?
Dan Alcafferty,
Ralph Mitchell,
Mike Andrews,
Jason Hunter,
Mike Flanagan.
Nice to meet you guys.
And remind us of the
Danielle Plant Security.
Danielle, yep.
Tom Evans.
Tom Evans. Back into the swing of things. All right.
All right, sir.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty bare bones this year. Obviously, we had the request from the town administrator, level funded, minus the 2.5% for non-union personnel. You'll see it at the bottom. I did do the calculation in case the town hall union gets 2.5. I mean, obviously, I can't say for sure what they're going to get. It's there just as a little extra, but other than that, it's the level funded as we were requested to do. Obviously, we could use some bolstering in different places. We've been cut a couple times small here and there the past couple of years, but this is what we're going forward with, and if you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
My question would be, what would be the biggest concern, since obviously with no budgets are really increasing your level funding, but where would you be concerned the most if there was, where would you feel you needed funding?
Yeah, the main two places would just be expenses and household hazardous waste. The household hazardous waste, that's a variable cost every year. We have, normally it's 9 to 12 collections in the spring and 9 to 12 collections in the fall. That's a group of about 18 communities. We participated with Hanson, East Bridgewater, Abington, and we did that to further kind of divvy up the cost, because every year we have to host one, but because we do it with those four, our hosting cost is reduced. However, you never know what's going to show up. 2 years ago, we went over only by $200, but it could have been more. This year, it looks like we're going to hopefully end up with some excess, but you just never know. The last couple of collections could kill us and we go over. So again, that's a variable cost that we can't predict. It's a free, it's free for residents to go there, get rid of their household hazardous waste. The town covers it.
Which I have utilized. I utilized it down in Hanson. I utilize it as much as I can.
I definitely see a lot of
It's a
familiar
great service. So let me ask you, in the end for the money, is it depending on, at the end of the day, whatever they've collected, does that determine the actual
So
cost?
as we go on throughout the day, say you were to show up, and depending on what you have, normally it's Claire who runs the cooperative. She will determine what we call load size. You can either have a half, a full, or you could have multiple full loads. So one day, like the past collection in Hanson, our most recent one, I think it was 31 Whitman residents showed up. They could have 31 full loads. They could have had 62. This past year, we did limit it. So if you come with over 3 full loads, after that, it would be on the resident to pay, just because it was getting a little out of hand. You'd have someone that operates a small business and could have a truck bed and a trailer full, and it's just too much. Yeah, we want to be able to help the average resident.
Yeah.
Get
I went
rid
in
of
with
some
like
stuff.
3 boxes of...
Yeah.
Yeah.
We take propane tanks, paint, mulch, oil, gas, basically anything you can think of that when you look at I got to get rid of this, but aren't sure what to do.
Yeah,
So
sitting around. Yeah. Like I said, it comes in here. I utilize it, and I look a couple months in advance to try to figure out where everything is in the cellar.
And basically on those rates that gets contracted out right now, it's tried and they say, yep, for a full load it's $42, for their half load it's $22. This upcoming year, the rate is still locked in, but then after that, it'll go to negotiation. Who knows? could stay close. Most likely it's gonna at least go up, I'd say 5 to 10%. So I'd say next year I would assume it would be more likely that we're gonna come in here asking for money just because of the cost going
Right,
up.
yeah. So,
Hopefully this upcoming fiscal 26 will be all right, but like I said, you never know. Thankfully, DPW has a small portion of budget that they've helped us out in the past. However, we can't always rely on that, so you never know. We might finally get some snow and they don't have any money to give to us. So
That's true. All right. That answers my question. Thank you.
We as a board would like to, if we were to ever have the money, increase Dan's salary. That is important to us as a board. We feel like he is not paid fairly. We feel like he's underpaid, he's worth more. We'd like to keep him here and out of the private sector for as long as we possibly can. Dan would never tell you that. I'm here to tell you that. He is important to us. He does an incredible job. We've done all we can to compensate him without raising his salary. We feel that higher management have contracts that have higher salaries built in. His level of management, we are tied to whatever we are told to do. We've done other things like increased his vacation and such, but we can't give him any more vacation than we're already giving him for a few more years. We're kind of tied, and we're in a hard place here. He does a great job for us. He really does.
Yeah, you never want to lose good people, and there is some disparity
There
there.
is disparity, and
And
it's really not fair.
Duly noted.
Yeah, thank you.
Duly noted.
Thank you.
I'd like to echo that too, in the sense that I have been very impressed with the way that he handles everybody. Nobody is mistreated. Nobody is ever spoken to in a tone that's condescending. He's very cooperative, and when you ask a question, I get my answer within a few minutes, hours, and boom, boom, boom. So yeah, he's very reliable.
Yeah.
And always going to the conferences, always meeting with the neighbor communities. You got a good one.
Yeah. Is this your third year, Dan?
Sure, yeah.
no, and
Fourth? I mean, I track
I
of time
think
flying.
it's today the 21st, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Give me 2 weeks, it'll be 5 years.
Time
So
flies.
crazy.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
before Dan, I know there was a little choppiness there in the position.
Yeah,
And,
this has been
people in the upper management, they're contractual, they have their raises. Other people have bargaining that goes on, so they get more that way. And
Yeah.
people in Dan's position were kind of stuck.
Although they're going to be cutting their budget real quick this year,
Yeah,
watching it, because there's no money.
I know. And
You
we're in
know,
a tough
and-
place this year.
Yeah, we all are.
We're in a tough place, but I just would like it noted that
Which is the role that you're in?
the health inspector. It's really department head, whatever you want to call it, but it's becoming jack of all trades. So
Yeah, there's a lot more. There's a lot. I know there's a lot more that goes on than 6, 7 years ago.
yeah, there's more than what people would think, but
Yeah.
so
It's more than just the health inspectors, what I'm hearing. You're also
does more
managing.
than other health inspectors do.
yeah, there's quite a bit. I mean, we have 600 multifamilies in town, which take up more time than food inspections. Food inspections are cut and dry. We have 51 in town, do them twice a year. But that's, you go in with a mission. People, you walk in, they know who you are. They're like, all right, let's do it. Landlord-tenant issues, it could be anything. It could be rodents, insects, heat. It really could be anything. I've seen it all and heard it all. So
Sorry for asking. Is that someone calling you and saying, I have something for you to go and
correct.
back?
It could
Yep.
just be a tenant that calls and says, "Hey, listen."
Oh,
Every
no.
time he gets a call on a road, he has to.
I know my neighbor called. I just recently talked to one of my other neighbors, and he's
Sure.
telling me, "Oh, I've been calling.
Tractors, yeah.
I've been telling him, man."
People don't realize every time he gets a call about a road, he has to go
Oh, yeah.
inspect that,
Yeah, yeah.
no matter what it is.
Yep.
And he's doing things that a lot of towns, even though they have a health inspector, contract out.
Yeah, at this point, it's hard to say without really looking into it, but I'd say at least 1 out of 3 towns is contracting out their food inspections. They just don't have time between the landlord tenant stuff, especially because it can get pretty blurry and you got to worry about legal issues if you're not handling things in a timely manner. So it's just,
Dismantling. things.
It's just staying on top of everything. Yeah, anything to do with sewer is us, which people normally wouldn't expect. DPW does do connections, but dismantling septic systems, that's us. So we do a little bit of everything. It's kind of like the Swiss Army knife, but keeps it keeps it interesting.
Yeah,
So.
doing the same thing, right?
I would suggest that you start a process now, the whole team, would start a process of evaluating the role, maybe all the roles, right? Comparing them and try and do an apples to apples comparison, right?
Yeah.
If, as you're saying, what you're doing is something that another town doesn't do and they outsource it, you have to take that salary plus the cost of the outsourcing. And I mean, I'm happy to help you with anybody here. Would you build a business case you can bring to the town administrator and say, here's what this role doing these tasks is being paid in the surrounding, 5, 6, 7 towns.
Yeah, I'm definitely willing to do that. As Colby knows, I've done actually that in the past. I did it my very first year here. Did just did
things up a bit.
Yeah, did some outside research and brought in about, I think at the time it was like 12, I still have it saved downstairs, but about 12 towns. Obviously things have changed at this point, but I could definitely look into doing that again.
Try and update it or something.
Yeah. Yep.
Mike, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Okay, so sort of building on this theme of the job is bigger than it used to be. I believe this time last year, Dan, the town was celebrating the arrival of Hornstra Farms, and then the cows came, and they were on their way. Has that impacted your workload significantly?
Once they get in there, I would say yes. Obviously, he had 4 cows there for about a month. They are not there right now. However, that's another thing that we do. We do annual barn inspections. I think this year I did about 30 of them. That could be someone with 1 chicken. I will be honest, if I drive by somewhere and I see they have a couple of hens, I'm not going to go there and flag them. You need this license. It's just not the way I operate. Obviously, if a neighbor were to call, present it, hey, I have someone, they got chickens, they're causing rats, then I'm forced to go out, talk to the person, make them get a $5 barn permit. Then we do an inspection. That's a state mandate. Have to do it. No choice. And that's basically to keep track of things, bird flu or anything else that could be going on. When Kathleen asked with the cows, it's a little bit different. Right now, we only have one other place. It's the Healing Farm over on Harvard Street, Layla Donovan's property, that has more than essentially just chickens or ducks. Hornstra, I think he plans on having about 60 cows there, which will be fun and different for me. I will say I'll probably reach out to someone like the Middleborough inspector, Rachel, and see if she'll even come up once and walk through some stuff with me, because it will be new territory for me. But it happens all the time, less so now than 4 years ago, but I'm always up to learning something and making sure things are getting done right.
Nice. Okay, and my other question is really for Danielle, because as I recall at last town meeting, Danielle, you got up at town meeting requesting an increase in your expense line. And at that point, we weren't entertaining any requests for any expense or any increases. But I empathized with you, and I felt we gave some of the smaller departments short shrift last year just for the purpose of getting through the budget. What kind of expense increase were you looking for, or can you even speak to that at this point in time? This is the time for us to at least be aware of there is a small department that doesn't make an awful lot of noise, but does an excellent job, and they haven't been given the spotlight that they deserve.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let Dan speak on that.
Yeah, Kathleen, last year when Danielle got up, that was predominantly speaking for the public health nurse. There was a $2,000 cut to her line, so it went from 12 to 10. 2,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's the smaller departments, it can certainly feel like a lot. So essentially what that ended up doing, it made it so Kim is no longer in the office on Tuesday nights from 5 to 7. She used to be there. Anyone could walk in or make an appointment, do blood pressure, just ask general questions about health, and she could be there to answer them. Another thing that she would do pretty frequently at that, we have seen TV in Whitman, which is not, basically it's everywhere now. She does still do them when she can. However, a TB patient needs to take a set of pills every single day for 6 months, and it needs to be supervised by a medical professional. A lot of times now, Kim thankfully we are able to pass some of them off to DPH, who will get on a video call with them and do them. I've also referred a couple of people over to Abington, who has a full-time public health nurse who will see them if they can go in during office hours. Obviously, it would be great if someone from Whitman could handle them, but there just isn't the time and hours there for her to do it, and I don't want to ask him to do it and not get paid for it.
Yep. Okay. Good to know. Thank you.
Yep.
So returning that back, you said it was cut down to 10,000 from roughly 12.
Correct.
Moving it back up, would that resolve some of that problem?
I mean, it would be great to get the hours back, of course, just to be able to have her there.
Come back, I don't know.
Well, and that is the main thing, because Kim does a few different things. Because of course, when it's limited hours like that, she might, and I don't know, it'd be a conversation I'd have to have with her. I know she's been doing some work for other towns, Hanson being one of them. She might be doing stuff for them Tuesday nights, so it'd have to be a conversation I'd have with her. Obviously, the thought of it is great, but I would have to speak to her to give you a definite answer.
Okay.
But we would certainly use the money in a useful way. We would do more. I mean, we have no money to do anything extra. We talked about doing AED training with the community.
Narcan.
Narcan training. We have no money.
We already, some of those limited stuff we do, like the rabies clinic, which really can't, we don't get as many as we'd like, but even if we get 50 residents who pay, it's going to be $20 a shot this upcoming year for their animals, and then we do 50 shots. That normally would have cost town people $5,000. You're not getting a rabies shot for your animal for under $100. Now it's normally even a lot more than that. In something like that, you don't see it, but even Danielle all the time is doing it for that, spending money out of her own pocket to do the event up to our standards, because we just sometimes don't have the money in the budget for the expense line.
That
So
will be the next thing we cut. That's the only thing we have left to cut.
we're one of the only communities left that does it. We want to keep doing it. People love it, and the people that go to it really, it helps them out quite a bit. So we don't want to see it go, and hopefully we'll be able to do it for many years to come. But
Yeah, it's a good
So you
service.
shouldn't pay out of your own pocket and not get reimbursed for it. You know,
In the past year, I was able to get reimbursed. It's the advertising I pay out of my own pocket.
yeah, you should come to see us and see what we can do with the. We got $35,000
have
in
money.
the bank account. You know,
If we don't do
So-
the advertising,
You know.
then we don't get the people. And
Right.
even it's the
we
same
don't
with the
pay for actual
shards.
shots. I do sponsor a few for people who really can't afford it.
yeah.
If you pull in smoking your cigarettes and all this, I won't pay for your shot. But if you're really destitute, I will pay for your shot. But because it all goes to the vet, we take nothing from
Yeah.
it, nothing. But it's the advertising. We have to advertise.
And the vets,
Or no one
Right.
comes out.
They don't know it's there. They're not going to, yeah.
realistically, the vets lose the money on it too. The
Yeah.
cost that we take in is simply to pay for the vaccine itself. He goes there. He has at least
doing
one tech with him. He's losing money on it too. It's Dr. Jack Curtin over at Abington Animal Hospital.
Oh, yeah.
We're really grateful that they
Yeah.
do it year after year, and hopefully the relationship will continue to move forward.
If he ever stops, we will never be able to find another vet.
Yeah.
Right.
He's also getting business too from it, though. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I mean, he doesn't have it.
Yeah.
I
He
mean,
doesn't have to have it.
someone asked, but yeah,
I
so.
think more curious to
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good relationship. I see that. It's
Yeah,
excellent.
he's that kind of person
Yeah,
that he
absolutely.
just wants some
You know, I do a lot of free things in the healthcare to generate more business.
He does it right in the
You know.
car. I mean, he's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? No, perfect.
Well, we can certainly send you the request form,
Yeah.
and where we can help, where necessary. As always, it's not a bottomless pit of money that we have either, but
Yep.
it's meant for this kind of thing, and we're happy to entertain.
Yeah, no, that's great to know. I had no idea, truthfully.
Uh-oh, we're in trouble now.
Yeah. We're going to be coming up with all sorts of
Only
things
for
to
the
do.
smaller budgets we talked about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's. I think Kathleen put it well. You took a hit last year, and I think if we can help try and stabilize that a little bit, that would be helpful.
We do pay Dina to come that day.
Yeah, that's new. We always were doing our meetings, which this was a last year thing. We were doing our meetings during the day, but because of our new board member, works 9 to 5, and actually another one
No,
too.
I meant for the rabies.
Oh, for the
Yeah.
rabies, yes,
We don't think
correct.
it's fair to
Yeah,
ask
we
for
just
time
recently
to
got the
work
recording
that
secretary
day
line.
and not get paid.
We did lose it at a point because we were able to perform meetings during the day, but it's also kind of unfair to the public. Not that we generally get a ton of people coming. We're not exactly the most popular board, but if someone wants to come, they shouldn't have to take off work. So we do thankfully have that recording secretary line now.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what time do you guys meet in general?
5:30.
5:30.
To Mondays. Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, Mondays.
Yeah, if anybody expresses a real interest, we can change it to later that day or whatever. But
I have a question. It's the 500 animal inspector. Is that you too?
Yes.
yes, Dan.
Yeah. Basically, that's rabies quarantines. If there's a dog, two dogs get into it, scrapes, bites, or another dog bites, even an owner or a cat, or unknown. Yeah, we basically what happens. They bring them to the animal hospital. Animal hospital will then send us a fax. Says this is what happened. This is where they live, and then from the rest we handle that. Reach out. You can see a 45-day quarantine, a 10-day, a 4-month. Generally, what happens? Call the person, explain it to them, go out, give them the paperwork, and then on that date of when the quarantine ends, you go out one more time, release the animal. So that's how that process goes. And normally that's a stipend. It's $30 per quarantine. I generally try to save it because sometimes Joe Kenny, another one of the animal control officers, will do some of the cases, especially if we think there might be, if it goes to the steps of a dangerous dog hearing and it would go in front of the selectman, I like letting him handle it because that's his wheelhouse. But for the most part, I'd say I do 90% of the quarantines.
You take the money, Dan.
No.
Dan does not take the money. And for some reason, animal control doesn't usually do the dangerous dogs, do they?
Joe will do them if I ask or if he's
I'm a
called.
little confused about why. I'm still, this comes up.
Myself,
frequently.
Joe, and Laura are all animal inspectors in town, so technically any of the three of us can do a quarantine or those annual barn inspections.
But they're not.
Correct.
And they're animal control.
They're animal
The ones that
control.
won't come meet us.
Yeah. It's a little bit
Haven't yet.
confusing. you know.
Yeah.
Still have to book a time.
Animal control over the years has had trouble finding a home, I think. That's
Yeah.
the way to put
They
it.
at one point
Under
were put
somebody's
under the Board of
purview.
Health, and then
Yeah.
it was changed. And so during that time when they came down, I think that's when the animal inspector line got on this budget. And then at that time, the previous health agent, Alexis, she was like, yeah, I'll get the certification too. So she started doing them to help out. And it's kind of always stayed that way now.
The town administrator now.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Well, I can tell you care a lot about what you do here in this town, and I hope that you don't go elsewhere
Yeah,
at
I mean-
least for a while so we can figure this out.
I mean, I grew up in Whitman, so I want to see the town. I mean, for me, it's all about serving the public. It's the name of the game, is making sure the people of Whitman are getting a good service. So,
Dan.
Yep. Yeah, he's done a good job over the
Dan has
over
been
the
my job
5 years.
Yeah.
All right. Any other
Team.
questions or comments? Anything?
All right.
that'll do it for me. I appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
Good to see you.
Nice
Thank you.
guys.
See you, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good night.
You too. Too.
A very good budget season.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
This year. Very
Busy.
tough, I know.
We'll be wearing masks next week.
Take care. all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks again.
But
All right. Library is on deck.
Yes, and I believe they are out there.
Need to eat.
Did they hear it, right?
Yeah.
Take a peek.
What do we got now?
Take a quick style break.
What do we have now?
Oh, library.
You close it.
You can just come at the budget too,
I
right?
was hoping.
You always come at the budget.
Yeah, we gotta go. That guy really does.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All righty. We have the library coming in now.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wait for more. Only three? Only three this year?
I don't know. Well, Michael's in a meeting.
Oh, that's right.
Yep. They're next door.
He's a busy guy.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Celebrated a great birthday.
Yeah.
You're under.
Thank you.
Trying to find out the hotel.
Oh, there he is.
I'm at 2 meetings, sorry.
I know, Michael. Ralph, we'll be right back. Why don't we,
So, are likely to be extras. I wasn't really sure if we're going to have the full crew or not.
Yeah.
Does everybody have?
Ralph, yeah. We'll just start with introductions. We have Kathleen Otina is on the phone with us this evening, the chair.
Hi, all.
Hi, Kathleen.
Thanks.
I'm Mike Warner.
Chuck Colby.
Al Cafferty.
Mike Andrews.
Jason Hunter and Mike Flanagan. I'm David Aronson, Library Director.
And I'm Margaret McEwen, Library Trustee, Board of Library Trustee.
I'm Sylvia Bubbins, Library Trustee.
I'm Michael Ganter, Trustee. Hi, Ralph.
And Ralph is back.
Alrighty.
Well, I know some of you have been through this before and some of you have not, so we'll try to move things along as best we can. But another good year for us at the library. It was very busy. A few of our highlights this year, we welcomed a new staff member in January. Jeannie Angelos is our newest part-time library tech. She actually just last Saturday was her 1-year anniversary. She's really fitting in nicely. And our longtime circulation supervisor, Barbara Bryant, retired. Some of you might have seen that. She had worked for the town for over 25 years, so that was certainly a significant change for us. We've actually posted the position recently, and it may be being filled from within, so we'll kind of see how that plays out over the next few weeks. And somewhere we'll end up with a vacancy. I'm not quite sure what yet, but that remains to be determined. So programming continues to be strong. We did 417 in-person programs, which is 94 more than the previous fiscal year. Story times, author and speaker events, arts and crafts, read to a dog. A couple of the new programs we rolled out include, we have a Warhammer group that meets on Tuesday nights. And we're doing a 100s reading challenge for nonfiction. The goal is to get people to read a book from every section of the Dewey system throughout the winter. And then we're doing raffle tickets and prizes and things like that. We had 556 people participate in our summer reading challenge, of whom 316 were children. Our best attended program was Bluey. That was on February 18th. We had 500 people in the building. Oh. It was really pretty intense. Not going to lie. The line went, the person was actually in the community room, and the line went around through the children's room, all the way to the wall by the church, all the way down the wall, and half the way back up at one point in time. But we were able to actually get everybody through the line in about 20 or 25 minutes. So, I mean, it was more daunting than it looked, but and people do seem to love these character things, so whatever works.
Wonderful. Yeah.
And recently we had a New Year's Eve program that was actually on New Year's Eve. And given the weather, we didn't really know how that was going to go, but we had 105 people at that, so that was a nice surprise.
Is that the first time you had that?
We've had that for the last several years. Okay. This is by far the best attended. Last year we had 75 people, which is pretty good. I mean, for
this one was on New Year's Eve.
This one was on New Year's Eve, so this was a little bit different. Yeah. We did like a quick story time countdown. They had a little craft thing for, it's for little kids, obviously, but it seems to be going well. So just a few of our programs. We did mindfulness in January and make your own spice mixes. Elise and Teddy are our read to a dog people. They come in twice a month. People, dogs. That's a program for beginning readers, and that's always very popular. We had a monster party on the 26th where we did people could trick or treat. We had little trinkets for the kids. They came in costume. That's always we're doing a lot of craft programs, on the kids side. So these are some of our Wednesday night crafts that we do. We usually do 1 or 2 a month on that. One of our staff members is pretty creative, so she led a paper cherry blossom workshop. That was in March. We also had yoga last spring. Yoga is actually back for the month of January. That was very popular. That was Whitman Wellness Center led that just as a drop-in, and the Friends funded that, so it was free to the public. So that was, it definitely brings in a different kind of crowd than we usually get. So that was nice. We've been partnering with Chicks and Chaps 4-H. The barn gets a little cold this time of year, so they've been using our community room to hold their meetings. So last year they did a program on rabbits, and this past year they did a program on goats. So they actually brought some goats that were out on the front lawn, and people came by and saw them. Ted Reinstein came by promoting his latest book. That was in April. And we also had a speaker on whales and whaling history, and of course New Year's. So we've basically been averaging, we'll do, as I said, 1 to 2 weeknight programs every week. We have at least one program just about every Saturday. We have twice weekly story times for, the really young kids on Monday and the slightly older kids on Thursday. We have a teen group that meets once or twice a month, so it's a lot going on. We're very busy, but happily people seem to be really engaging with what we're offering. So yeah, it's all to the good. So library was open 2,500 hours, 447 after 5 p.m., 55,737 patrons. So that's about the same fiscal year to fiscal year. Mention the programs. We have 4,636 borrowers, 4,440 are town residents. So that's actually a decent sized increase, about 10% over the previous year. So that's, certainly those of us working on the desk, you can see a lot of people coming in. I get the sense that we have, new families and things like that moving into town. That's kind of what all of us are seeing anyway. So circulation, 77,000, that's about holding steady year to year. That doesn't include our e-content. That is starting to grow after a while. It's taken a lot longer than people thought it would, but it is starting to. And our collection's around the same size as it's been, 53,000. We kind of turn over probably 3,000 to 4,000 items a year, just in terms of new stuff coming in and then weeding out what we do. So, okay, certification requirements. This is nothing new to most of you. Open to all. No charge for normal services. Because of our population size being over 15,000, we have to be open 50 hours a week and some evening hours. So we're currently open 6 days a week, except, for most of the year anyway. And 3 nights. I have to be certified, which I am, and we have to lend books to other libraries in and out of the state. Now, the money stuff. Municipal appropriation, basically it's got to be the average of the last 3 years, increased by 2.5%. And as I mentioned, we have to spend roughly 15% of our total appropriation on materials. So the next year, I'm projecting an appropriation requirement of around 77,000. Kind of depends, 75, 77, somewhere in that range. So, any questions on any of that? All right, so if you flip to the next page, that's the budget. It's pretty simple. It's basically all salaries. As you may remember, last year we discussed pulling the maintenance out of the library budget. That has been transferred to the facilities department. That was done in the last fiscal year. I can't say enough for the work that the facilities director's been doing. It's really, he's a great asset. We work well together. So it has slowed the growth a little bit, obviously because the whole budget is basically, contracted wages. It only contains it so much. So if you look at this, the left column is what was budgeted in FY25. The request is based on, the instructions that we were given. And then I had put together projections on where I imagine things are going to come out because as you're probably aware, all the unions are negotiating contracts, so it's, presumably it'll be 2.5%. So the only real changes I've made year to year is to ask for a little more in the overtime budget, because we do use that, both for some of our part-timers work some overtime, and also we do have some subs that come in, or we have a sub. I'm looking to add to that. We have a small crew and a lot of hours to cover, and most people have a lot of vacation time, so it can be challenging, and that's kind of how we fill things in. And then obviously on the expense side, I'm just trying to get the number closer to where we need to be in terms of our materials expenses, because obviously in addition to materials, we also have to actually run the place. So, paper and supplies and all kinds of other stuff. Programming, as you're probably aware, does not come out of the town's money. That's funded by the Friends, or it's basically Friends, fines and fees, or state aid. So, and then the network membership goes up by a certain amount every year. So, I didn't know if you had any questions. Yeah.
Just the library overtime. You had mentioned that the part-timers get overtime.
The part-timers can, so they're all scheduled. One is scheduled 18 hours a week, one's scheduled 15.
Okay.
They do pick up some extra shifts, fill in, stuff like that. Obviously, we're limited because they can't average over 20 a week.
Right.
But we do have them come in throughout the year.
See, that's coming out of you call that overtime now?
Yeah, it used to be integrated into other parts of the budget, and we've split it out so that we can track it a little more carefully as far as what we're actually spending.
Right.
They don't generally work enough to get to the place where it's actually overtime.
Right.
Once in a while, one of the full-time staff members will work an extra day. It doesn't happen very often because it means they've worked 6 days that week, and most people don't want to work 6 days. But, so it can happen that we do have some actual overtime, but it's usually not very much because they all work a 35-hour week. So it's 5 hours of straight time. There's only really a couple of hours that are actually at an overtime rate. So, so that's that. But we do, obviously there are only 8 of us, covering a lot of hours, and, all it takes is one person to be on vacation and 1 or 2 people to be out sick. And then it's like, okay.
What day you close? Sunday?
Sunday. Yeah.
Okay.
We're open. We are able to be, so state law requires you to be open 38 Saturdays a year.
Okay.
We're usually open about 40 to 42, depending on how the Saturdays fall. Our last open Saturday is Whitman Day. We go to the park. That's a mandatory day for everybody because we keep the building open and then split the crew, and half of us go to the park. We usually then stay closed until Labor Day, and then we reopen the day after Labor Day. So, but that's kind of how it works. We're open Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9:30 to 8. So, it's when we do evening programs, community groups, stuff like that. So that's kind of where it is.
Does the changes that you're representing on your requested budget get us to that 2.5%? My rough math seems to indicate it does.
Yeah, it does. We did, when they took the utilities out, it did drop the number a little bit. So it actually delayed our state aid. So that's a whole other story. But that's just the way that, because they had to go through and verify that this, I explained to them what we were doing. But that's, yes.
Yeah, probably didn't realize that was going to happen, right?
It wasn't really what I had in mind.
Because, no, I didn't think of it, but yeah.
With our budget year, they do the state aid in 3 rounds. It's November, December, January. And usually by about this time of the year, we're kind of spent through most of the, at least on the expense side.
Yeah.
And so we kind of roll into the state aid, and I'm like, kept waiting for it to come in. It's like, where is it? So, but I have, they did notify us last week that they've formalized the awards, and we should see it in the next couple of weeks. So that will be good. So, yeah. There is a small decrease in longevity because with the retirement, the newer staff members don't qualify for longevity, so it's not a lot. It's only a few $100s, but it's a little something. So, yeah.
And the expenses went up a fair amount, though, in the request.
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I'm just trying, because we're required to spend even a little more than that from the state. I'm just concerned that we're going to come to a day where if they start, we're so dependent on state aid that if for whatever reason they cut state aid, then we're not going to make ends meet. And there are certain options around that, but they decrease your state aid in proportion to what you don't spend. So you're sort of like, right, you end up in the same situation.
So that's kind of where all right, where do I, in order to get me to that point where we will qualify, that's really the line item that you use to.
Yeah, because
get us there.
we're required by statute to spend 15% of the total appropriation on materials. So the 15%, that's where it comes out as. And as I said, we had pulled the utilities out to try to keep the numbers down a little bit because the cost of actually, between the utilities and the actual building maintenance was growing pretty substantially year to year just because it is, and there's not much we can do about it.
Yeah.
So at least with that centralized, with the facilities, they can kind of plan that a little bit better, and it doesn't really impact us as much year to year as it had been. But obviously, when it comes to the salaries, they're all by negotiation, and that's just is what it is. I mean, that's no different than many other town departments are dealing with the same thing. So that's just the way that goes.
Is that generator running well? The generator?
Yeah, we don't use it much, but every now and then. I mean, I know that it kicks on, but it just things come up. We had the feed to the parking lot lights broke somehow, so they had to do that. A few heat issues. Last year we had bigger heat issues. We haven't had any big ones this year, happily, knock on wood. But it just, it's not a new building, and these things were open a lot of hours, and it's the way it goes. So it's.
You'd mentioned sharing. You have to send books to other libraries. How's that?
So that's a requirement for state aid. The state operates a delivery service. They contract with a company, and so so we're in a network, obviously OCLN. So that's one level, and we share sort of most directly with the libraries in the network. There's also something called the Commonwealth Catalog, which is a listing service for all of the libraries all of the public libraries and a number of the university libraries in the Commonwealth. So you can go outside of our system and place a request, and they'll send it. But the state, as part of its own funding, pays for the actual delivery. So that's
if you're
why.
looking for a book or something you didn't have it, you get it from another.
Yes. Yeah. So usually, just about anything that you want, we can get within a couple of days typically. And then the state also operates a true interlibrary loan service, which is you can request books from anyone that will send them. So, you can get books from kind of anywhere in the States. And I actually, my uncle was looking for a particular memoir about the Korean War. So I went on and requested it for him. And it came from the Pentagon, actually, which I didn't know the Pentagon had a lending library, but I came in, Barbara was still working, and she's like, look at this. Because, of all things, I'd never imagined that. I was like, wow, that's really cool. So he read his memoir and then sent it back, and it was free. We had to pay for the postage. I think it was like $4, because that obviously doesn't go through delivery. But yeah, it's an amazing resource. So, and then obviously, the ebook side, the state has kind of facilitated that, so you can go on and, there are lending agreements and such, so you can kind of get anything through there. But that's a little bit of a different thing. But
David, if we're a net lender, that benefits our state aid, doesn't it?
It does. We are kind of a net lender overall, just because. That's just the way it is. And the state aid, part of the state aid formula, they calculate how much you're lending and to whom. And that does impact how much money they give in state aid. So,
So you mean like if we have stuff that people are looking for, the more stuff we have people looking for it, it counts.
So what tends to happen is, like, if you have a popular title, so let's say there are half a dozen Whitman patrons with holds. Well, it'll go through the list. Everybody gets it for 2 weeks or whatever they get it for. And a bigger community like Quincy, for instance, there might be 30 people on the list for that book. So that's what then the thing goes on a tour of the South Shore, see, and then we eventually, now local patrons always have priority. So if somebody jumps in the middle of the train and wants it, then it goes back to that person. But, yeah. Anyway,
So, and that's all a good thing for us. It counts. It helps on the state aid.
Yeah. So I have to
Get the numbers.
Yeah, I have to submit. They call it an ARIS report. You have to do a report of the library statistics. That's what, and then you do a financial report. Both of those we do right at the end of the fiscal year, and that's mainly how they calculate the state aid. But one of the things that the network does is they'll calculate, all right, what did you take in, what did you send out, that type of thing, and all that factors into what the state ends up giving us.
We do pretty well with that.
Yeah, we are quite a net lender. I mean, I think it's by a factor of about 2 to 1, which is not a bad thing necessarily, because we are spending money on the materials, and obviously we want them to be used. Yeah. So we buy good stuff, in my opinion. So if people want it, that's good. Once our people have had it, then it keeps on moving. Obviously, the children's side of the house is kind of our bread and butter, which is to be expected in most communities, and I think it's a good thing. So that's why we had reconfigured everything and kind of made the assistant director position a children's position, so we could have a couple of people there, because the demand is just crazy. We probably could do a story time every day and have people there. It's really quite something. So, but anyway,
And you're in additional adult book clubs.
we do. We almost every staff member has a book club, and we're actually rolling out a new one on Thursday. Jeannie, our new person, came up with the idea for a new book club, so we're going to be rolling that out, and she's got 12 people on a wait list, which is about all that's plenty. So, got a few other things we're working on. We're actually going to be launching a new website, which the trustees graciously funded from there. So we'll be looking to roll that out probably around the end of the fiscal year. So that'll be good. We're hoping to, get a few other things that we're doing. So, but
It's good service. Good service for the town.
I just want to add to the trustees also updated most of the policies that we have had, and they're now going to be posted on the website too. So
Okay.
will be a lot clearer as to use of rooms, lending policies, that sort of thing that was considered general knowledge, but hadn't been updated in a bit and was a little more difficult for the public to access.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is Mike in charge of that? Yeah.
No, I'm the only one that wasn't on
He
that.
was the only one that was.
Yes.
It was a subcommittee, fortunately, but we had all of the others, because he still works, most of us are retired, so we were able to do that. And the group was terrific, but we met a lot. Yeah.
It's funny because I didn't think when we started that, I figured that was going to be
A one and done.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it turned
me
into be quite a substantial project. So,
Writing policy is a whole thing.
Yeah.
but it's so important now because of the world that we are in, and you really have to think hard about how you're interacting with the public, because it's you just don't really know. So so I certainly am grateful that the board took that on, because it did turn
I'm
out to
just
be.
grateful that it's available. Well, it's much more transparent.
Yes.
Yeah.
A nice presentation.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Could I ask a quick question, Mike?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm looking at the budget, and I have a question about 3 line items, salary lines, that do not have a 2.5% increase. Youth services, circulation supervisor, and senior library technician. Are those contract positions?
No, they are subject to bargaining. So if you look at the rightmost line where I said requested at 2.5, that's the estimate. That's not what I actually put in the request I gave to the TA's office.
Okay.
The assistant director and I are separately contracted, and actually my contract is in process because it expires at the end of this fiscal year. The other everything from youth services down is subject to the bargaining unit contract, and obviously we just had our first meeting on that, so I'm not sure where that's going to end up, but I just tried to do a projection on that based on, the upper end of where we're going to be, just to have some idea of what the round numbers look like.
Yep. Okay. Now that answers my question, Dave. Thanks very much.
Yep. All righty. Anything else? Anyone have?
Thank you.
Well, thank you, everybody, for coming in. Always a pleasure to have you librarian.
Yes. Thank you for your time.
I'd still come down there and pay to print paper soft.
We've got lots of good stuff.
Yeah.
Always busy down there.
Oh,
Good
yeah.
thing.
Always.
I brought my son to the kids' room and made sure that he liked the wooden. He's one, so the old wooden box with the slide.
Oh, yeah.
I brought him down there to make sure he liked it, and then I bought him one.
Yeah. Many
Thank
uses.
you very much.
Thank
All right, good night. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
All righty. Two very good departments, well prepared this evening. Nice to
Yeah,
see.
providing
They all be like that,
good services. Yeah.
Important services, yeah.
Yeah.
It's,
I was living in Weymouth at the time, and I was looking at this book that was written back in 1922. Went to the Weymouth Public Library. They didn't have it, but because the OCLA, and they get it for
Yeah. My wife's utilized it many times. Yeah.
Yep.
1922. I think it's probably out of print, and you'll never find it. But they found it.
You know that?
Alrighty, let's see. It's just about 8 o'clock, so I'm looking. We've gone through all of our new business, our old business. There's no one here for public forum. We do not have communications or town administrator update this evening, other than what we received at the select board, of course, earlier. Our meeting next week, the 28th, Elizabeth should be here. So as I said, I will reach out to her and see if she has had an opportunity to update any of our minutes. We've been Chuck has been great at running the soundboard for us. But next week we do have a pretty full one. We have South Shore VOTEC, followed by facilities. We have scheduled the treasurer collector. We have not had a confirmation from them yet, so I'm going to ping them myself. And the appeals board. So it's a little bit later, but not terribly much so. But that's our big one.
And also, Kathleen or Mike, can you guys forward the email, the correspondence from the police chief for the rest of the board?
Sure.
I read the police chief's email.
Yeah. No, if you want to pass it along to the rest of the members, great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we went back and forth a little bit. Yeah,
Will do.
Thank you, Hans.
Yep.
I will also send you the updated version of our schedule, including the new select board stuff. And again, accountant, treasurer collector, town clerk, animal control, planning board, historical commission, police. Those are the ones that we have not had confirmations. So I think what I'll do is I'll send a reminder to those folks in addition to your efforts. I know you've all been good at trying to get them to respond. But we really have to, lock this out. Because as you can see, the select board is moving ahead with a plan. We need to be able to have a good feeling as the finance board that we can contribute to the plans they're trying to figure out to keep us above water and at least the same level of service that we have. So, all right. If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Sorry.
We have a second from Al. This is because we have Kathleen on board. This is our vote, so I need to just Run around. Chuck?
I vote yes.
Al?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Kathleen?
Yes.
And I am a yes. That is unanimous.
Wow.
Hey,
We are done.
nice job, guys.
8:04. Thank you.
See you next week.
See ya.
Thank you.